Welcome to the Thunderdome, folks, also known as the global economy, where the latest blood sport isn't hand-to-hand combat but something far more insidious: tariffs. Specifically, we're diving headfirst into the ongoing tariff brawl between the United States and China, two economic heavyweights seemingly determined to turn the global trade system into a sparring ring. We'll be examining who's landing the punches, who's taking it on the chin, and just how much collateral damage this whole thing is causing. Spoiler alert, it's not pretty. So, buckle up, grab your nearest economist, or, a bottle of something strong, because we're about to break down the winners and losers in this trade war royale. Let's be clear, nobody actually in a trade war. But if we absolutely pick some victors in this mess, well, the US steel industry might be a contender. With tariffs on imported steel driving up prices, American steelmakers are suddenly looking a lot more attractive. Demand is up, production is booming, and some might even call it a comeback story for the ages. But hold your applause. This uptick in domestic production comes with a hefty price tag. That cheaper imported steel? It was kind of a big deal for a lot of American manufacturers. Now they're stuck paying a premium for domestic steel, which eats into their profits and puts them at a disadvantage against international competitors. And don't even get me started on the aluminum industry. Tariffs on imported aluminum have given domestic producers a boost, but at the cost of higher prices for everyone else. Slapping tariffs on Chinese imports might sound good in theory, but in practice it just disrupts the supply chain and makes it more expensive for everyone involved. While the United States and China duke it out in the tariff ring, other countries are starting to look like those savvy gamblers who hang out near the roulette table, just waiting for the right moment to swoop in and collect their winnings. Take India, for example. They've been quietly upping their manufacturing game for years, and with the United States and China locked in a trade war, they're looking more and more attractive as an alternative. Companies are diversifying their supply chains to avoid those pesky tariffs, and India is more than happy to welcome them with open arms and favorable trade deals. It's a similar story with Japan. They've long been a global leader in manufacturing, particularly in the automotive and electronics industries. And with the US-China trade war creating uncertainty in the market, well, let's just say Japan is looking like a pretty safe bet right now. The influx of foreign investment is giving these economies a shot in the arm, creating jobs and boosting growth. But here's the thing. This shift in the global trade landscape isn't happening in a vacuum. Developing nations that rely heavily on exports to the United States and China are facing declining demand and falling prices. Remember that Made in America label that used to be relegated to dusty jeans and novelty shot glasses? Well, it's making a comeback, baby! With tariffs driving up the price of imported goods, US retailers who source their products domestically are suddenly looking like the smartest folks in the room. Take, for instance, those plucky American apparel companies that decided to keep their manufacturing local. They might have faced higher production costs initially, but now they're reaping the benefits as tariffs make imported clothing more expensive. It's like they always say, the higher the tariffs, the higher the hemlines. Okay, maybe nobody says that, but the point is domestic production is having a moment. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. This shift towards domestic supply chains is still in its early stages, and it's unclear how sustainable it will be in the long run. Building a resilient domestic manufacturing base takes time, investment, and a whole lot of government support. Ah, the American consumer, the unsung hero of the global economy, the engine that keeps the wheels of commerce turning. They're also the ones getting completely hosed in this whole trade war debacle. See those tariffs on imported goods? They don't just magically disappear into thin air. They get passed down the line like a hot potato nobody wants to hold, until they land squarely in the lap of the American consumer. And by land squarely, I mean smash into their wallets with the force of 1,000 suns. Suddenly that flat-screen TV you've been eyeing is more expensive. Your new washing machine, budget-busting. Even that six-pack of imported beer you enjoy ironically, you guessed it, more expensive. When things cost more, you have less money to spend on other things, which slows down the economy. Remember those soybean farmers I mentioned earlier? The ones who used to be able to rely on China as a major export market? Well, they're not having a good time right now. In fact, they're living through the agricultural equivalent of a Taylor Swift breakup song. Lots of heartache, feelings of betrayal, and a nagging sense that things will never be the same again. China isn't just going to take those tariffs lying down. They've retaliated with their own tariffs on US goods, and American farmers are caught directly in the crosshairs. Soybeans, once a major export crop, are now subject to hefty tariffs, making them far less competitive in the Chinese market. The result? A massive surplus of soybeans, plummeting prices, and farmers struggling to stay afloat. Here's the thing about a trade war. It's not just the countries directly involved that get hurt, it's like a nasty virus, spreading across borders and infecting the entire global economy. The World Trade Organization, WTO, that august body tasked with keeping global trade flowing smoothly, has been sounding the alarm for months now. Their message? This trade war is a terrible idea, and if it continues, we're all going to feel the pain. The WTO has the data to back it up. Their projections show that if this trade war continues to escalate, global GDP growth could slow significantly. That means fewer jobs, lower wages, and a higher risk of recession for everyone. Think of it like this. The global economy is a giant game of Jenga, and the US and China are taking turns yanking out blocks. So there you have it, folks, a whirlwind tour of the winners and losers in this ongoing tariff tiff. And by winners we really mean those who are slightly less screwed, because let's be honest, nobody comes out of a trade war looking good. The tariffs enacted by major economies, particularly the US and China, are like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Sure, you might get some momentary satisfaction, but ultimately you're just making the problem worse. We're talking higher prices for consumers, economic uncertainty for businesses, and a global trade system teetering on the brink of chaos. This is a critical moment, folks. We can choose the path of cooperation and diplomacy, working together to create a fairer, more sustainable global trade system. Or we can continue down this road of protectionism and isolationism, a road that leads only to economic stagnation and geopolitical turmoil. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content.